um, you know, it's clear that some of the lessons were just never really learned in the first place.
Talk to us a little bit about what they discovered. I mean, I think if you watched in real time or watched videos of it, the assumption right away would be, oh, immediately everybody perished, huge explosion, we're done here. But in recovering the pieces of the shuttle that in the orbiter, it seems like that was not the case.
Well, it wasn't the case, partly because what you see when you see those television images might look like an explosion, but it was not. What happened is that the flame burning from the leaking solid rocket cut open the external fuel tank, which was the massive orange pencil shaped tank that sat in the middle that the shuttle orbiter sat on, and that released the fuel and the oxidizer that it contained under pressure into the atmosphere, and then that caught light. So that was a fire, and as part of the disintegration of the entire shuttle stack, they called it, the orbiter itself was torn apart by aerodynamic forces, but an explosion did not take place. And the shuttle crew compartment, which itself was an airtight capsule within the fuselage of the shuttle orbiter, that flew free of the wreckage and carried on pursuing an upward trajectory into the sky until it reached an apogee and then began falling back to Earth, pulled by gravity. And what they found when they finally discovered the wreckage of the orbiter and the crew compartment is that it seemed highly likely that the crew, all 7 members of the crew had remained alive as the crew compartment left the, was torn free of the wreckage of the orbiter. And it seems also possible that at least one member of the crew remained conscious as that happened, and possibly as long as it took for it to fall back to the surface of the ocean where it was destroyed.
And then the impact of that hitting the ocean is what then killed them all.
In all likelihood, yes.
Yeah. And then, so then, yeah, talk us through a little bit. We have obviously the direct aftermath and then the recovery process. But there was a lot of importance placed on, all right, we're going to recover. We got to find, what happened, and obviously for evidence for what happened. But then, talk about that process of how they discovered that information that you're just saying, and how they had discovered the actual body parts that they found.
Oh, well, they conducted what I think may have been the largest maritime search operation in US naval history. And it took them months, and they combed the ocean for hundreds of square miles around Cape Canaveral, initially in order to recover pieces of the solid rockets, because they quickly, through analyzing the film that was taken and the photographs that were taken of the launch, they established that was almost certainly the cause of the accident. But they couldn't conclusively prove that until they'd recovered all the debris, all of the pieces of the solid rockets. And so the recovery effort really focused on that initially. And they spent months searching for those and eventually found all of the key pieces of the rockets around where the leak was. And their analysis of that proved conclusively that was the cause of the accident. And they then began to focus on trying to recover the crew compartment. And that's what they eventually did. They brought the whole thing up from the bottom of the ocean, and they found the remains of the crew, many of them still strapped into their seats.
The seats, yeah. When you interviewed people, obviously we're 40 years almost exactly from it. Are people angry? Are people sad? Like, what was the overriding emotions you got?
I mean, I would say that well, there was a mixture of emotions. I mean, what was most striking, I think, was how upset is too mild a word. How devastated some of the rocket engineers from Morgenthau remain to this day by what happened and by their apparent failure to stop the launch going ahead. So, I spoke to a couple of those guys who, I went out to Utah and talked to people over a number of days. And, in a couple of cases when it came to talking about the events of January the 28th, they found it extremely hard to talk about it, even 30 something years after the fact. So it remains very vivid and real for these people, even at this huge remove.
Do you remember where you were? When it happened?
Yeah, I certainly do. I was 17 when it happened. So I was in high school in England, and because of the time difference, it happened in the late afternoon. And I was still at school. Obviously, this is a pre-internet, pre-cell phone environment. So, and there was no 24-hour rolling news. So I just went out after school with my friends, and it wasn't until I got home and my mother, who watched it on the news, told me what had happened. And I really remember very clearly how just inconceivable it seemed to me that this could possibly have happened. And it took a long time before it really sank in that this was, that NASA really had experienced this calamity live on TV in front of millions of people.
It really is one of those that I would imagine, you have the tent poles of American, say, tragedies or big events that are seared into people's memory. The Kennedy assassination, 9/11, certainly, and Challenger seems to be on that list. I would imagine most people who were around then have a memory of it. It's I guess partly because it's something that went badly, as sometimes we latch onto that. But do you think perceptions have changed? Obviously, people, through things like your book, through other resources, are learning more about it. Do you think perception has changed over time about people's understanding of this, or is it kind of fixed in some people's memory?
That's a good question. I mean, part of the reason I wanted to write the book was because I felt that it was something that was, about to slip away into history. There was an opportunity to write about this while, eyewitnesses who lived through it were still around. And